Welcome to Toxic from Reddit, where real toxic relationship stories come to life. Here you'll hear true stories from people who experience toxic relationships from different perspectives. Partners dealing with cheating, manipulation, gaslighting, red flags, and all the emotional chaos that comes with loving someone who hurts you. Stories of betrayal, of finding strength to leave, of discovering the truth, of heartbreak, of healing, and the raw reality of toxic love. This is a real story, shared anonymously on Reddit. Some details have been changed to protect the identity of the people involved. Hi everyone, my name is Lauren. I'm 32 years old, and I live in Austin, Texas. And I need to tell you about the most shocking and heartbreaking betrayal that has completely destroyed one of the most important relationships in my life, which is that 2 weeks ago, my best friend of 15 years, the woman who was my maid of honor at my wedding, the person I trusted more than anyone else in the world, confessed to me that she's been in love with my husband since before we got married, that she's been secretly trying to sabotage our marriage for the past 5 years, that she's been planting seeds of doubt in my mind about my husband's faithfulness, and that she's been hoping that we would get divorced so that she could have a chance to be with him. And now I'm dealing with the devastation of losing my best friend, questioning everything about my marriage, and trying to figure out how much damage she's done to my relationship with my husband. I'm going to tell you this entire story from the beginning, because there's so much history and so many layers to this betrayal that you need to understand. My best friend's name is Natalie, and we met when we were 17 years old in our senior year of high school. Natalie had just moved to Austin from California, and she was the new girl at school, and I was assigned to be her buddy and show her around. Natalie and I became friends immediately. Like, we had so much in common, we liked the same music, we had the same sense of humor, and we just clicked. We became inseparable. Like, we spent every day together, we told each other everything, and we considered each other to be sisters. After high school, Natalie and I both went to the University of Texas, and we were roommates for all 4 years of college. We went through everything together: breakups, family drama, academic stress, and we were always there for each other. Natalie was the person I called when something good happened, and she was the person I called when something bad happened, and I truly believed that we would be best friends for the rest of our lives. After college, Natalie and I both stayed in Austin, and we got apartments near each other, and we continued to be best friends. We were both starting our careers, we were both dating, and we were navigating our 20s together. When I was 25 years old, I met my husband Daniel at a work conference, and I fell in love with him almost immediately. Daniel was smart and funny and kind, and he treated me better than anyone I had ever dated. Daniel and I started dating, and our relationship progressed quickly, and I knew pretty early on that Daniel was the person I was going to marry. I introduced Daniel to Natalie about a month into our relationship, and I was so excited for my best friend to meet the man I was falling in love with. I thought that Natalie would be happy for me and that she would love Daniel as much as I did. When Natalie met Daniel, she seemed friendly and welcoming, and she told me that she thought Daniel was great and that she was happy for me. Natalie and Daniel got along well, like they would joke around and have conversations, and I was so happy that my best friend and my boyfriend liked each other. As my relationship with Daniel progressed, the three of us would hang out together often. Like, we would go to dinners, we would go to movies, and we would have game nights at my apartment. I loved having my two favorite people in the same room, and I felt like I had the perfect life. About a year into my relationship with Daniel, he proposed to me, and I said yes immediately. I was so excited to marry Daniel and to start our life together, and I asked Natalie to be my maid of honor. Natalie said yes, and she seemed excited and happy for me. Natalie helped me plan my wedding, and she was involved in every aspect of the planning, from choosing the venue to picking out my dress to planning the bachelorette party. Natalie seemed like the perfect maid of honor, like she was supportive and helpful, and she seemed genuinely happy for me. Looking back now, I can see that there were some signs that something was off with Natalie, but at the time I didn't notice them, or I dismissed them. Like, Natalie would sometimes make comments about Daniel that seemed a little too personal or a little too interested. Like, she would comment on how handsome he was or how lucky I was to have him. Natalie would also sometimes try to spend time alone with Daniel. Like, she would suggest that the three of us hang out, but then I would have to work or I would be busy. And Natalie would suggest that she and Daniel hang out without me. At the time, I thought this was sweet. Like, I thought Natalie was trying to build a friendship with Daniel because he was going to be my husband. But looking back now, I can see that Natalie was trying to get close to Daniel, and that she was trying to create opportunities to spend time alone with him. I also remember that Natalie would sometimes ask me very detailed questions about my relationship with Daniel. Like, she would ask about our sex life, about our fights, about our future plans, and at the time I thought she was just being a good friend and being interested in my life. But now I realize that Natalie was gathering information about my relationship so that she could use it against me later. Daniel and I got married 5 years ago in a beautiful ceremony, and Natalie was my maid of honor, and she gave a toast at our wedding about how happy she was for us and how much she loved us both. I remember feeling so grateful to have Natalie in my life, and I remember thinking that I was so lucky to have a best friend who loved me and supported me so much. After Daniel and I got married, Natalie continued to be a big part of our lives. Like, she would come over for dinner at least once a week. She would join us on vacations, and she was always around. At first, I loved having Natalie so involved in our lives, but after a while, I started to feel like Natalie was around a little too much. Like, she was always at our house, she was always texting Daniel, and she was always inserting herself into our plans. When I mentioned this to Daniel, he said that Natalie was my best friend, and that it was nice that she wanted to spend time with us, and that I shouldn't make her feel unwelcome. I felt guilty for feeling annoyed by Natalie's constant presence, so I pushed those feelings aside and I tried to be more welcoming. But I also started noticing that Natalie would sometimes make comments that seemed designed to make me insecure about my marriage. Like, Natalie would say things like, "Daniel seems stressed lately. Is everything okay with you guys?" Or, "I saw Daniel talking to a really pretty woman at the coffee shop the other day. Do you ever worry about him cheating?" At the time, I thought Natalie was just being a concerned friend, but now I realize that she was planting seeds of doubt in my mind. Natalie would also sometimes tell me stories about other couples we knew who were having problems or who were getting divorced. And she would say things like, "You just never know what's really going on in someone's marriage," or "People change after they get married, you have to be careful." These comments would make me feel anxious and insecure, and I would start questioning my relationship with Daniel and wondering if everything was really as good as I thought it was. I would sometimes bring up these concerns with Daniel, and Daniel would reassure me that everything was fine, that he loved me, and that I had nothing to worry about. But Natalie's comments had planted seeds of doubt in my mind, and I found myself being more suspicious of Daniel and more anxious about our marriage. About 3 years into our marriage, Natalie started making more overt comments about problems in our marriage. Like, she would say things like, "I noticed that Daniel didn't kiss you goodbye this morning. Is everything okay?" Or, "You and Daniel seem distant lately. Are you guys fighting?" I would tell Natalie that everything was fine, but her comments would make me start analyzing every interaction with Daniel and looking for signs that something was wrong. Natalie would also sometimes criticize Daniel to me. Like, she would say things like, "Daniel doesn't seem very appreciative of everything you do for him," or "I think Daniel takes you for granted." These comments would make me feel resentful toward Daniel, and I would start noticing things that bothered me about him that I hadn't noticed before. I would bring up these issues with Daniel, and we would end up fighting about them, and our marriage started to become more strained. Looking back now, I can see that Natalie was deliberately trying to create problems in my marriage, but at the time I thought she was just being a good friend and looking out for me. About 2 years ago, Natalie started suggesting that maybe Daniel was cheating on me. Like, she would say things like, "Daniel has been working late a lot lately. Are you sure he's really at work?" Or, "I saw Daniel's car parked near that bar downtown. What was he doing there?" These comments would send me into a panic, and I would start checking Daniel's phone and his emails and his social media, looking for evidence that he was cheating. I never found any evidence, but Natalie's comments had made me so paranoid and suspicious that I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. My paranoia and suspicion started to really damage my marriage. Like, I was constantly accusing Daniel of things he hadn't done. I was constantly questioning him about where he had been and who he had been with, and Daniel was getting frustrated and hurt by my lack of trust. Daniel would ask me why I was being so suspicious, and I would tell him that Natalie had said things that made me worried, and Daniel would get angry and say that Natalie was causing problems in our marriage, and that I needed to stop listening to her. But I would defend Natalie and say that she was just looking out for me, and that Daniel was being defensive because he had something to hide. This would lead to huge fights between Daniel and me, and our marriage was really struggling. About a year ago, things came to a head when Natalie told me that she had seen Daniel having dinner with another woman at a restaurant across town. Natalie said that Daniel and the woman had seemed very close, that they had been laughing and touching each other, and that it had definitely looked like a date. I was devastated, and I confronted Daniel about it as soon as he got home from work. Daniel was confused and said that he hadn't had dinner with anyone, that he had been at work all evening, and that Natalie was lying. I didn't believe Daniel, and I accused him of cheating on me and lying to me. Daniel was furious, and he said that he was tired of me accusing him of things he hadn't done, and that Natalie was clearly trying to break us up. Daniel said that he thought Natalie had feelings for him, and that she was trying to sabotage our marriage so that she could be with him. I thought Daniel was being ridiculous, and I told him that Natalie was my best friend, and that she would never do something like that. Daniel and I had the biggest fight we had ever had, and Daniel ended up sleeping in the guest room that night. The next day, I called Natalie and told her about the fight, and Natalie said that she was sorry for causing problems, but that she had definitely seen Daniel with another woman, and that she was just trying to protect me. Natalie said that maybe Daniel was gaslighting me and trying to make me think that I was crazy so that I wouldn't discover his affair. This made me even more convinced that Daniel was cheating, and I became even more suspicious and paranoid. Over the next few months, my marriage continued to deteriorate. Like Daniel and I were fighting constantly, we barely spoke to each other, and we were sleeping in separate rooms. I was miserable, and I started thinking that maybe Daniel and I should get divorced. Natalie was very supportive during this time. Like, she would listen to me vent about Daniel, she would tell me that I deserved better, and she would encourage me to leave him. Natalie would say things like, "You're so young and beautiful. You could find someone so much better than Daniel. Or life is too short to be in an unhappy marriage. You should just leave him." I started seriously considering divorce, and I even met with a divorce attorney to discuss my options. But something was holding me back. Like, despite all of the problems in our marriage, I still loved Daniel, and I didn't want to give up on our relationship. I decided to suggest couples counseling to Daniel, and Daniel agreed immediately. Daniel said that he loved me and that he wanted to save our marriage, and that he would do whatever it took to make things work. Daniel and I started going to couples counseling, and it was really helpful. Like, our therapist helped us communicate better, and she helped us work through some of the issues in our marriage. Our therapist also pointed out that I seemed to have a lot of anxiety and paranoia about Daniel cheating, and she asked me where those feelings were coming from. I told our therapist about Natalie's comments and about how Natalie had told me that she had seen Daniel with another woman. Our therapist said that it seemed like Natalie was having a negative influence on our marriage, and that I should consider setting some boundaries with her. I was defensive at first, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that our therapist was right. Like, every time Natalie made a comment about my marriage, I would become more anxious and more suspicious of Daniel. I decided to talk to Natalie about it, and I told her that I appreciated her concern, but that I needed her to stop making comments about my marriage because it was causing me anxiety. Natalie seemed hurt, and she said that she was just trying to be a good friend and look out for me, but that she would back off if that's what I wanted. After I set boundaries with Natalie, my marriage started to improve. Like, Daniel and I were communicating better, we were fighting less, and we were reconnecting emotionally and physically. I realized that a lot of the problems in my marriage had been caused by my own insecurity and paranoia, which had been fueled by Natalie's comments. I felt guilty for not trusting Daniel and for accusing him of things he hadn't done, and I apologized to him for how I had been acting. Daniel forgave me, and he said that he understood that I had been influenced by Natalie and that he was just happy that we were working things out. Over the past year, Daniel and I have been rebuilding our marriage, and things have been really good. Like, we're happy again, we're in love again, and we're stronger than we've ever been. I also started spending less time with Natalie. Like, I stopped inviting her over for dinner every week, I stopped telling her every detail about my marriage, and I started creating some distance between us. Natalie seemed upset about this, and she would sometimes make comments about how I had changed and how I didn't have time for her anymore. But I felt like the distance was necessary for my marriage, and I didn't feel guilty about prioritizing my relationship with Daniel over my friendship with Natalie. 2 weeks ago, Natalie called me and asked if we could meet for coffee because she needed to talk to me about something important. I agreed, and we met at our favorite coffee shop, and Natalie seemed nervous and upset. Natalie said that she had something to confess to me, something that she had been keeping secret for years, and that she couldn't keep it inside anymore. I asked Natalie what she wanted to tell me, and Natalie took a deep breath and said, "I'm in love with Daniel. I've been in love with him since the day I met him, and I've been trying to break up your marriage so that I could have a chance to be with him." I felt like I had been slapped in the face. Like, I couldn't believe what I was hearing, and I just sat there staring at Natalie in shock. Natalie continued talking, and she said that when I first introduced her to Daniel 7 years ago, she had been immediately attracted to him, and that she had developed feelings for him very quickly. Natalie said that she had been hoping that my relationship with Daniel wouldn't last, but that when Daniel proposed to me, she realized that I was going to marry him and that she was going to lose her chance to be with him. Natalie said that she had considered telling me about her feelings before the wedding, but that she had decided not to because she didn't want to ruin our friendship. Natalie said that after Daniel and I got married, she had tried to get over her feelings for him, but that she couldn't, and that she had become obsessed with him. Natalie said that she had started deliberately trying to sabotage our marriage by planting seeds of doubt in my mind, by making me insecure and paranoid, and by trying to create problems between Daniel and me. Natalie said that she had been hoping that Daniel and I would get divorced, and that once we did, she would be there to comfort Daniel and to start a relationship with him. Natalie said that she had lied about seeing Daniel with another woman at the restaurant, that she had made up that story to try to make me think that Daniel was cheating so that I would leave him. Natalie said that she felt guilty about what she had done, and that she couldn't keep lying to me anymore, and that she needed to tell me the truth. I was in complete shock, like I couldn't process what Natalie was telling me, and I couldn't believe that my best friend of 15 years had been deliberately trying to destroy my marriage. I asked Natalie why she was telling me this now, and Natalie said that she had realized that her plan wasn't working, that Daniel and I were stronger than ever, and that she needed to come clean and move on with her life. I asked Natalie if Daniel knew about her feelings, and Natalie said that she had never told Daniel how she felt, but that she had tried to flirt with him and get close to him over the years. Natalie said that Daniel had never reciprocated her feelings, and that he had always been faithful to me. I was furious, like I couldn't believe that Natalie had betrayed me in such a horrible way. And I told her that our friendship was over and that I never wanted to see her or speak to her again. Natalie started crying, and she said that she was sorry, and that she hoped that someday I could forgive her. But I told Natalie that I would never forgive her, that what she had done was unforgivable, and that she had destroyed 15 years of friendship. I got up and left the coffee shop, and I haven't spoken to Natalie since. When I got home, I told Daniel everything that Natalie had confessed to me, and Daniel was shocked and angry. Daniel said that he had suspected that Natalie had feelings for him, but that he had never imagined that she would go so far as to try to sabotage our marriage. Daniel said that he had always tried to keep his distance from Natalie and to keep their interactions appropriate, and that he had never encouraged her feelings. Daniel said that he was sorry that I had lost my best friend, but that he was glad that Natalie had finally told the truth so that we could move forward without her toxic influence. I've been trying to process everything that happened, and I've been going through all of the emotions, anger, betrayal, sadness, and grief. I'm angry at Natalie for betraying me and for trying to destroy my marriage. I feel betrayed by someone I trusted more than anyone else in the world, and I'm sad about losing my best friend of 15 years. I've also been thinking about all of the damage that Natalie caused to my marriage, like how many fights Daniel and I had because of Natalie's lies and manipulation, how much pain and anxiety I experienced because of her comments, and how close Daniel and I came to getting divorced because of her sabotage. I feel guilty for not trusting Daniel and for believing Natalie's lies, and I feel stupid for not seeing what Natalie was doing sooner. Daniel has been very understanding and supportive, and he's told me that I have nothing to feel guilty about, that Natalie was very manipulative, and that anyone would have been fooled by her. I've been thinking about all of the signs that I missed over the years, like the way Natalie would look at Daniel, the way she would try to spend time alone with him, the way she would ask detailed questions about our relationship, and the way she would make comments designed to make me insecure. Looking back now, the signs were so obvious, but at the time I was blind to them because I trusted Natalie completely, and I never imagined that she would betray me like this. I've been going to therapy to help me process everything, and my therapist has been really helpful in helping me understand that what Natalie did was a form of emotional abuse and manipulation. My therapist has explained that Natalie was engaging in a pattern of behavior designed to undermine my marriage and to make me doubt my husband, and that this kind of manipulation can be very damaging to relationships. My therapist has also helped me understand that I'm grieving the loss of my friendship with Natalie, and that it's normal to feel sad and angry about losing someone who was such a big part of my life for so long. I've been thinking about whether Natalie's confession was genuine, or whether she had ulterior motives for telling me the truth. Part of me thinks that Natalie genuinely felt guilty and wanted to come clean, but part of me also thinks that Natalie told me because she realized that her plan wasn't working and she wanted to cause one final explosion in my life. I've been thinking about whether I should have seen this coming. Like, were there signs earlier in our friendship that Natalie was capable of this kind of betrayal? Looking back, I can see that Natalie was always a little bit competitive with me. Like, she would sometimes seem jealous when good things happened to me, and she would sometimes make passive-aggressive comments. But I always dismissed these behaviors as normal friend stuff, and I never imagined that Natalie was capable of deliberately trying to destroy my marriage. I've been thinking about Daniel, and about how he must have felt all of these years having Natalie around and knowing that she had feelings for him. Daniel has told me that he always felt uncomfortable around Natalie, but that he tolerated her presence because she was my best friend and he didn't want to cause problems. Daniel has also told me that there were times when Natalie would try to touch him inappropriately or would make suggestive comments, and that he would always shut her down and create distance. I feel terrible that Daniel had to deal with Natalie's inappropriate behavior, and I wish that he had told me about it sooner so that I could have confronted Natalie and set boundaries. But Daniel says that he didn't want to cause problems between Natalie and me, and that he thought he could handle it on his own. I've been thinking about my future, and about how I'm going to move forward without Natalie in my life. Natalie was such a big part of my life for 15 years, and it's strange and sad to think that she's just gone now. But I also know that I can't have someone in my life who tried to destroy my marriage, and that cutting Natalie out of my life was the right decision. I've been thinking about other friendships in my life, and about whether I can trust other people after this betrayal. Right now, I'm feeling very guarded and suspicious, and I'm having a hard time trusting anyone. But I'm working on this in therapy, and I'm trying to remind myself that not everyone is like Natalie, and that most people are trustworthy and genuine. I've been thinking about my marriage and about how Daniel and I are going to move forward after everything that happened. The good news is that Daniel and I are stronger than ever, and we've been able to use this experience to grow closer and to build more trust. Daniel and I have been talking a lot about what happened, and we've been processing our feelings together, and it's actually brought us closer. I feel grateful that Daniel was always faithful to me, and that he never gave in to Natalie's advances. And I feel lucky to have a husband who loves me and who is committed to our marriage. I've been thinking about forgiveness, and about whether I'll ever be able to forgive Natalie for what she did. Right now, I can't imagine forgiving her. Like, what she did was so cruel and so calculated, and it caused so much damage to my marriage and to my mental health. But I also know that holding onto anger and resentment is only going to hurt me, so I'm working on letting go of those feelings. Not for Natalie's sake, but for my own sake. I'm working on accepting what happened, on grieving the loss of the friendship, and on moving forward with my life. I've been thinking about the lessons I've learned from this experience, and there are so many. I've learned that you can't always trust the people who are closest to you, and that sometimes the people who seem the most supportive are actually the most toxic. I've learned to pay attention to red flags in friendships, like jealousy, competitiveness, and passive-aggressive behavior, because these can be signs of deeper issues. I've learned to trust my instincts because there were times when I felt uncomfortable with Natalie's behavior, but I dismissed those feelings because I didn't want to seem paranoid. I've learned to communicate openly with my partner and to not let outside influences affect my relationship. And I've learned that my marriage is the most important relationship in my life, and that I need to protect it and prioritize it above all other relationships. I've been thinking about other people who might be in similar situations, who might have a friend who is trying to sabotage their relationship, and I want to tell them to pay attention to the signs, to trust their instincts, and to set boundaries with people who are causing problems in their relationship. I want to tell them that if a friend is constantly making negative comments about their partner, or if a friend is planting seeds of doubt in their mind, or if a friend seems overly interested in their relationship, those are red flags, and they should investigate further. I want to tell them that true friends support your relationship and want you to be happy, and that anyone who is trying to create problems in your relationship is not a true friend. I've been thinking about Natalie, and about what her life is like now, and honestly, I don't care. Natalie made her choices, and she has to live with the consequences of those choices, which include losing her best friend of 15 years. I hope that Natalie gets help and works on her issues, but that's not my responsibility anymore. I've been thinking about moving forward with my life, and about building new friendships that are based on trust and mutual respect. I'm excited about the future, and I'm grateful for the experience because it's made me stronger, and it's made my marriage stronger. Thank you for reading my story, and if you've been through something similar, if your best friend betrayed you, if someone tried to sabotage your relationship, if you discovered that someone you trusted had been lying to you and manipulating you, or if you've had to end a long-term friendship because of betrayal, I would love to hear how you dealt with it and where you are now. I'm still processing everything that happened, still grieving the loss of my friendship with Natalie, still working on rebuilding my trust in people, but I'm hopeful that I'll come out of this stronger and that my marriage will continue to thrive without Natalie's toxic influence.